What are temporary disability benefits, and when in your workers' compensation case do you receive temporary disability benefits? So temporary disability benefits are distinguished from permanent disability benefits. You have temporary versus permanent. You have total versus partial. So temporary disability benefits are the monetary benefits that you receive while you're recovering from your initial accident and injuries. So that's while your benefits are temporary in nature, meaning they get better, they get worse, they're fluctuating. You go and have surgery. Once you have surgery, you're deemed to be totally disabled for a period of time following the surgery. So those benefits are temporary. There are any monetary benefits you receive that are not permanent disability benefits, and that's what makes them temporary in nature. So you receive them generally for your lost time following your accident. So if you get hurt and you start losing time from work because of your accident and your injuries, the money that you're receiving while you're out of work, that's your temporary disability benefit. And you'll continue to receive those while you're out of work. And if you don't ever go back, or you can't ever go back, at some point you're going to be deemed to have a permanent disability, and you're going to be receiving permanent partial or permanent total disability benefits. So that's what temporary disability benefits are in a nutshell. You get them for your lost time until you're deemed to have a permanent injury. How much do injured workers receive in temporary disability benefits, and do you have to pay taxes? Huge question. This is a hot topic that we always discuss. First of all, how much do you receive in workers' compensation temporary disability benefits? You are entitled to up to 2/3 of your gross average weekly wage. Now, what does that mean? Your average weekly wage is the average gross weekly salary. It's the average of the 52 weeks leading up to your accident. So if you get hurt on January 15th, 2024, well, they're going to go backwards 1 year, and they're going to ask for all of your gross weekly salary for the 1 year leading up to the accident. And they take that weekly average, and you're entitled to up to 2/3 for total disability. So if you're totally disabled, you can get up to 2/3 of your average weekly wage. Now, there is a cap. And if you go on the Workers' Compensation Board website, there is a schedule of maximum weekly benefits. Depending on your date of accident, the maximum weekly award that you receive based upon your average weekly wage changes every year. Depending on what your date of accident is, that dictates what the maximum rate would be for your accident, for your injury. So it's up to 2/3 subject to that statutory maximum rate. For instance, for injuries occurring from July 1st, 2023, so last July, up until June 30th of this year, so this past June, for that 1 year period, the maximum that you could receive in weekly temporary benefits is $1,145.43. So what does that mean? If you earn $3,000 a week gross weekly earnings, your 2/3 of that is $2,000, which is over the cap, which is over the max. So even though you earn $3,000 and 2/3 of that would be $2,000, you're only going to get $1,145.43. So that's the maximum you can receive for total disability. Now, what happens if you're not totally disabled? What if your doctor says you have a 50% disability or a 75% disability? Well, then it's that percentage of the overall total. So if your salary is $900 per week, gross weekly salary, 2/3 of that is $600. So if you're totally disabled, you get $600. If you have a 50% disability, you get half of that. You get $300 per week. If you have a 25% disability, you would get $150 per week. So again, it's percentages of that maximum of that total amount. Now, the big question, do you have to pay taxes on your temporary workers' compensation disability benefit? The answer is no. All workers' compensation monetary awards are tax-free awards. So your temporary benefits, your permanent disability benefits, your scheduled loss of uses, your Section 32s, all of the money that they pay you, your reimbursements, they're all tax-free. And that's fantastic news. How are temporary disability benefits actually paid out to you, and are payments distributed in the same way as they are for permanent disability benefits or settlements? So how are they paid out? They're paid out by check. Generally, the insurance company sends you a check. Now, temporary disability benefits, permanent disability benefits, permanency caps, PPDs that we've discussed, basically everything except for schedule loss of use awards and Section 32s are awarded as weekly benefits. Like we said before, if you have a total disability and you earn $900 a week, you're entitled to 2/3, which is $600 a week. Your temporary disability benefits are $600 per week. They are actually paid to you bi-weekly. Although the awards are made weekly, they are paid bi-weekly. So instead of getting a check for $600 every week, you're going to get a check for $1,200 every 2 weeks. So they're awarded weekly, paid bi-weekly. Most of the time, they're paid via check. You get a check in the mail, but the board has required that all insurance companies offer direct deposit options, so you can get direct deposit. You just call us. We're your lawyer. We help you set it up with the insurance company. You usually just fill out a form with your banking information, and they will direct deposit your checks. They'll dump them right into your bank account, and you're ready to roll. You don't have to worry about checks going missing. It's been a big problem over the years where people, their mail is not as reliable as it should be, and and checks go missing. And we don't want your check to go missing because you rely on your money. So direct deposit's a very good option. It's quick, it's easy, there's less risk. So yeah, generally speaking, your temporary disability benefits are paid the same way as a permanent partial disability award. They're bi-weekly payments of weekly awards. Will your temporary disability benefits change if your condition improves or worsens? Do they stop when you go back to work, and do they resume after surgery? Yes, your temporary disability benefits change as your condition changes. So if your condition worsens, if your condition improves, your temporary benefits are going to worsen or improve. There's an inverse relationship, we call it. As your condition worsens, as your level of disability increases, the amount of your awards should increase by the same rate. If your condition improves, if you get better, if your doctors say that you no longer are totally disabled, if the judge takes testimony and rules that your level of disability has improved, then your benefits will go down by the same rate. So they're directly tied to one another. When you go back to work, assuming you go back to work at full duty, and like we've said before, full duty means that you're earning the same amount that you were earning before the accident, that you've achieved that same average weekly wage. It has nothing to do with what you're actually doing. You could have 2 broken arms and 2 broken legs, and if your boss is paying you the same amount that you were earning before you got hurt to push a button with your nose like a parakeet, you're back at full duty. Sorry, even though you're in 2 casts. You're earning the same amount as you were earning prior to the accident. It's your temporary disability benefits would stop at that point because you're no longer temporarily disabled. Even though you're hurt, even though you need treatment, even though there's a lot going on, if you're working at full capacity because your earnings are the same, in the eyes of the workers' compensation law, there is no temporary disability. So your compensation benefits would stop. Your temporary disability would stop. Does that mean that you're out of luck? That's it? Case closed? Have a nice day? No. Your treatment is still open. You're still entitled to get all the treatment that you need under the Workers' Compensation Board medical treatment guidelines, under the law, and potentially, depending on what injuries you have, you might still be entitled to more money. So if you have, like we discussed in the past, schedulable injuries, arms, legs, hands, feet, fingers, toes, whether you lost a day from work, a week from work, a month from work, or nothing, and you could be the guy in 2 arm casts and you can't move and you're parakeeting that button. If you do have permanent injury to those body parts, you could get money once you've reached maximum medical improvement and that there's a scheduled loss of use evaluation. So if you have a broken arm and you never miss a day from work, you're going to get money for the full value of that schedule because you never lost any time. So going back to work is not necessarily a bad thing, but your temporary disability benefits are tied directly to your work status and your earnings. Are there any strings attached to your temporary disability benefits? And do you have to look for work, part-time or light duty, if you're continuing to receive them? And this is why it's important to have a lawyer, because sometimes things might happen in court and you might not understand what happened, and it's going to have a huge impact on your obligations and your ability to receive your benefits. So if your doctor has determined that you have a partial disability and a judge has determined that you have a partial disability, then there are strings attached. You have to look for work within your restrictions. Usually the carrier has to request it, has to raise the issue, and the judge will direct it. You know, there are times where the carrier doesn't raise it and we don't have to do it until the issue has been raised. But generally speaking, if your doctor has found you have partial disability or the judge has ruled that you have a partial disability, work search becomes a requirement. And if there are offers of light duty work from your employer, you have to sometimes play the game and see if that's something that you can do, if that's something that you and your doctor think you should try to do. So yes, there are strings attached sometimes when you have a temporary partial disability. Can you work and receive temporary disability benefits at the same time? Yes. If you're working light duty, and again, we're going to erase everything we've ever thought about light duty. Light duty in the workers' compensation world only means less money. Your injury has reduced your ability to earn what you were earning before you got hurt. So if you are working light duty, aka earning less money because you can't work your full job because of your injuries, then yes, you might be entitled to receive temporary disability benefits. We call them reduced earnings. Your injury has caused you to have reduced earnings because you can't work in the capacity you were working before. So you can receive temporary disability benefits while you are working at light duty and your earnings have gone down. When in your workers' compensation case do temporary disability benefits get cut off? And what should you do if you're not ready to stop receiving your payments? So your temporary disability benefits can get cut off for a couple different reasons. Number one, you go back to work. You go back to work at full duty, your temporary benefits going to get cut off. That's what we discussed earlier. When else can they get cut off? Here in New York State, if you are out of work because of a work-related injury, if you're claiming to have lost time due to your injury, you need to see your doctor on a regular basis. A medical report provides evidence of lost time to support temporary disability for 90 days. So if you go see the doctor today, that report's going to carry you for 90 days worth of temporary disability benefits, 3 months. If you don't see the doctor again within that 3 months, the insurance company can, and oftentimes do, request request a hearing to go to court and suspend your benefits because there's no medical. If the insurance company's been paying you voluntarily, so if you got hurt in April of this year and the insurance company didn't object to your claim and they started paying you voluntarily and your payments have been coming and coming and coming, and then you stop seeing the doctor for 3 months, they could go ahead and suspend them on their own. They don't need a judge's permission, essentially, to do that because there's no formal award. If there is a formal award, if they're paying you pursuant to a decision, have the judge suspend for them. But if it's a voluntary award of compensation, they can suspend if they don't have ample medical. And that's a big problem. It also just looks bad. If you're so hurt that you can't work, you should be seeing the doctor. And if you can't get to the doctor once every 3 months, that just doesn't look good for you. When else can your disability benefits get cut off? If the insurance company has raised the issue of labor market attachment, that's what we discussed earlier. If your doctor has found a partial disability, or if the judge has ruled that you have a partial disability and you have to do a work search and you don't do a good enough work search, your temporary benefits get cut off. And if you're at that point and the judge goes ahead and rules that you're at maximum medical improvement and you have a permanent partial disability, and he says you have a 50% permanent partial disability, that would get you 300 weeks of compensation benefits. If you didn't do a work search and your temporary benefits got suspended, and then the judge decides you have a permanent disability, well, now your permanent disability benefits get suspended until you reattach to the labor market. So now you're entitled to 300 weeks of benefits, and each week that passes that you don't look for work is one less week of permanent disability awards that you're going to lose. So you need to go and do your work search, and you need to do it properly, and you need to have a lawyer explain to you exactly what it is you need to do. And that's why it's so important to have a lawyer. If you want legal help, you can give me a call, 212-406-8989. That's what I'm here to do, my friend. I'm here to help. And with that, folks, I think I'm going to wrap it up today. If you have any questions, you can always give us a call here, 212-406-8989. I am Rex Sikowski. Good work today, guys. Thanks so much. Have a good one.